was actually, I think, when I got to New York, the same week that Blonde on Blonde came out, and then I went on to Boston and Cambridge, and I was meeting all these people, and we used to listen to that record. We'd listen to Visions of Johanna, and it was depressing because you keep thinking to yourself, how am I ever going to do something that approaches that, you know? But I covered the song.
Desolation Row.
Desolation Row, yeah.
How do you learn all those lyrics?
I cheat. I don't do them all. Actually, Desolation Row, I compressed it. You know, I combined some verses and rewrote it, and I thought rather cleverly. But the funny thing is that there's so many words to that song that hardly anybody notices that I was messing around with them. And Visions of Johanna, I do the whole thing, but I sort of shifted the signature on it. I do it in 6/4. You know, it's sort of a 3 feel to it instead of the 4/4 that Dylan's in. And I still like to play that song. I play it fairly often.
What are your thoughts about the poet laureate? I'm sorry,
the Nobel Prize. I was quite pleased for him, you know, and for myself, you know. I said, you know, I was sort of like, I sat back and said, look at that, somebody who does what I do just got the Nobel Prize, you know, and I thought that was kind of a cool. I especially liked his reaction to it. I thought it was a very considered reaction, in my opinion, you know, because he sat back. I was reminded, you know, Jean-Paul Sartre famously refused the Nobel Prize. And when he was asked why, he said, I can't remember how he put it, but basically the thought was that somebody's got to stay outside, you know. Somebody has to not be co-opted. And I think that Dylan thought about that very thing, you know, before he accepted it. And then he thought to himself, I'm too big for them to co-opt me. This is my chance to co-opt the Nobel, you know, and so he did it because he couldn't be swallowed up by it, you know, and made a part of something he didn't want him to be a part of. So
they can't thrust that upon him.
Yeah.
Which seems to be Bob's whole thing.
Exactly.
Don't put me in some box.
Right.
If I want to jump in some box that you might not expect, I'll jump into it.
Now, I'll jump out of it when you least expect it. Yeah. Never met the man. Had a chance to open for him in Orlando. And I was pretty excited. It was part of a tour that we were doing. I was with my wife at the time, and we went down. We got to Orlando. And the day that we, you know, the day before, we got to Orlando a day early, and that day, the promoter called, and he says that they'd had some girl, I don't know who it was, open for him in Tallahassee the night before, and it had been some kind of a disaster, and the word had come down from on high that there were to be no more solo openers for Mr. Dylan. And the promoter was, he was devastated. He felt so bad about it. He said, there's nothing I can do about it. They won't let you in to play. But he says, I'm paying you, you know, here's your check, and you're welcome to come to the show, please do, you know, my guest, front row seats, the whole shooting match. And so I went. And I almost wish I hadn't, because there was a duo on opening for him, and I could have blown him off the stage. I don't mind telling you, man. In my personal opinion, I said that should be me up there, and I'd have been a lot better. But you know, that's as close as I've ever come to any interaction with the man at all. You know, I have the utmost admiration, you know, for his work. And I've covered 4 or 5 of his tunes. And, you ignore Bob Dylan at your peril.